When am I going to be divorced? That's one I hear a lot. Easy answer to that: when the judge says you're divorced. Now, a lot of people have a misconception that you will automatically be divorced 6 months after a petition is filed or after you're served with a divorce petition. That is not correct. It takes a specific order by the court, which usually happens after a trial, if there is a trial, or in a divorce judgment. Then at that point, the court will terminate the status of your marriage. Now, the earliest that can be done is 6 months and 1 day after the respondent, which is the party who didn't file the petition, is served with the petition. So if you are the petitioner, that 6 month and 1 day clock starts ticking when your spouse is served with the petition. If you're the respondent, it started ticking when you were served with the petition. Generally, the termination of status is handled at the end of the divorce, especially if there are custody issues, if there's a need for temporary orders, if there is substantial property to be divided. That divorce proceeding is typically going to last longer than 6 months. And honestly, most divorces do last longer than 6 months. And so it could be 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years before you're actually divorced, unless one of the spouses files for an early termination of status. Now, the danger with that is the party who requests an early termination of their marital status is going to be on the hook for primarily health insurance for the other spouse. Because if you have an insurance policy that's a family policy, you cannot include an ex-spouse on the policy, while you can include a spouse. So if your marital status is terminated, then your ex-spouse cannot be on your health insurance, or you cannot be on your ex-spouse's health insurance. And so what the court will do is place conditions on you for granting that early termination of status, where you will be required to pay for or indemnify your spouse with regard to health insurance. And there are some other things that don't usually come up, but essentially what you're doing is the court is going to put some conditions on you for an early termination of status that require you to indemnify or put your spouse, soon to be ex-spouse, in the same position as if he or she that they would have been in had the early termination of status not been granted. And so that's something to consider. If you're not in a position where you can readily do that, then you may need to stick it out for a time. But keep in mind, you cannot get remarried until your status as a married person is terminated.